Now, in what has become the most iconic image, British lawmaker Rees-Mogg was seen slouching and lounging in the front benches during a crucial Brexit vote. On your screens right now are the visuals which show the lawmaker reclined on the green benches during the Brexit debate. The Leader of the House of Commons, the lower chamber of UK legislature, has since been called out for his laid-back approach to the vote and Parliament. Amid echoes of sit-up, the opposition lawmakers hit out at Rees-Mogg, saying that his slouching is the physical embodiment of arrogance, entitlement, disrespect and contempt for Parliament.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about democracy tonight, and the Leader of the House, who I have to say, with his body language throughout this evening, has been so contemptuous of this House and of the people. And for the benefit of Hansard, the Leader of the House has been spread across around.
And in more news from the UK, 2 people have been arrested for damaging the Indian High Commission in London. Pakistani protesters vandalized the building yesterday. This is the second time that Pakistani protesters have resorted to violence in less than 1 month. About 10,000 protesters surrounded the Indian High Commission. They pelted eggs, tomatoes, smoke bombs and shoes at the building and broke a window as well. They were protesting against India's recent moves on Jammu and Kashmir. London's Mayor Sadiq Khan condemned the incident. He called it an unacceptable behaviour and urged the UK police to take immediate action. On the 15th of August, Pakistani protesters attacked Indians celebrating the Independence Day outside the Indian High Commission in London. They pelted stones and bottles on the Indians. They also disrupted the flow of traffic. Police arrested 4 protesters at the time. The UK Parliament has condemned the violence by the Pakistani protesters in August. Right, moving on, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the Russian city of Vladivostok on a 36-hour visit. Modi began his trip with a visit to a shipbuilding yard with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The plant is being set up to produce vessels including icebreakers, oil tankers and heavy tonnage ships. The ships being built in the plant in Russia's Far East will deliver Russian oil and LNG to India as well as other countries in the future. The Indian Premier was set to hold bilateral talks with the Russian President. This is the 20th annual bilateral meet between India and Russia. This visit is also significant as this is the 3rd time the 2 leaders are meeting this year. They met last in the month of June on the sidelines of the SCO summit in Bishkek and the G20 summit in June. Now, Modi has been invited as the chief guest for the Eastern Economic Forum. The Economic Forum that's being held from the 4th to the 6th of September will focus on cooperation and investment. The conference is designed to promote foreign investment in Russia's Far East. India believes that the forum will help boost its Indo-Pacific engagement. It will also help both nations meet their energy needs. Multiple business agreements are expected to be signed during Modi's visit. It includes MOUs for export of coking coal and cooperation in mining sector. A 5-year roadmap will be announced on hydrocarbon cooperation, both in terms of purchase and exploration. Now, the 2 leaders are also planning to attend a judo championship. A 6-member Indian team is in Vladivostok to take part in this competition. Modi's day 1 in Vladivostok will conclude with a dinner that will be hosted by President Putin. Now, WION Lisbon is getting you all the latest updates from the Russian city of Vladivostok. Our political editor Karthikeya Sharma tells us more about the significance of India in Russia's Far East.
India wants to re-strengthen ties with Russia for simple reason because it does not want China to become more powerful in Russian Far East. That is one. Secondly, the whole focus is on diversification. There is great need in India in context of energy. There is a demand for more energy because India is a developing economy. It has a growth rate. Now, Russia can provide that energy for us. Secondly, we want some technology which is not available to us from the Western world. So, the close cooperation in the field of nuclear technology is something which India wants. Thirdly and foremost, the re-strengthening of ties through non-state actors, through private companies. India also wants to play a role with Russians in larger geopolitics because it feels that it should just not become a pawn in the hands of the Americans in context of Asia. Russia and India have been friends. Now, when you assert that friendship, you also assert some sort of influence on China, which has over a period of time become very close to Russia. Now, if you take the trade volume between India and China, it's $50 billion. Now, the aspiration of the Russian and Indian trade by 2025 is to reach roughly around $25 billion. So, that is the difference of scale. That is how the decline has taken place in mutual priorities. And India, by strengthening that relationship, wants to ensure that China does not get to wield too much of power in Asian politics.
India has set up its own pavilion called the India Lounge at the Eastern Economic Forum with the support of the Ross Congress Foundation. The lounge will serve as a platform to demonstrate investment opportunities in the Far East, promote Indian investments in the region, and attract Russian investors to the growing economy of India. Our political editor Karthikeya Sharma caught up with the FICCI president Sandeep Somani for more on this. Listen in.
Can you tell us about India Lounge, the concept and the purpose?
So the idea of the India Lounge is basically to, have a place of residence for India in this large economic conference. Also to invite our Russian friends and partners. As you may be aware, this has been a hugely successful second trip. I was here a few weeks ago with the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyalji. At that time, we had over 160 delegates coming in from India to assess different points and different industries across this area. We are again back now for the Far Eastern Economic Summit, and there are 61 businessmen who have already come into Russia.
India-Russia relationship has moved from state enterprises now to private players. So can we say that the transition is taking place, from public sector enterprises to private players, entrepreneurs from both sides?
It's I would say there has been significant progress. The two states will always be very close to each other. So to give you an example, during the visit of Modi ji, 30 MOUs will be signed between India and Russia. 14 are from the government sector, PSUs, and 16 are actually from the private sector. So that answers your question to an extent, that the private sector participation in Russia, Indian participation is growing, and this is a good sign, of things to come in the future.
And lastly, diamond, tea, these are the areas where Indian participation is pretty much visible in Russian Far East. But when we talk about hydrocarbon, oil and other energy reserves, do you think more needs to be done in terms of private players?
Yeah, so I think the government has deep relations in terms of ONGC having good relations here and having economic interests in oil and gas fields. I think the private sector is also looking at Russia. Russia is today the largest producer of oil in the world, and it's a very significant producer of gas.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is attending the 5th Eastern Economic Forum in Russia. All eyes are on the bilateral between Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The big focus is on expanding energy cooperation. It's a new push to time-tested ties. WION's Karthikeya Sharma reports from Vladivostok. Stay updated only on WION. World is One.